Today, I want to give you my predictions for all of the things that will change in Rise of Kingdoms in 2023. And historically, my predictions are actually pretty dang accurate, although sometimes it takes a little bit longer to actually get the things that I'm recommending, like changes to Ark of Osiris. Here we are with changes to Ark of Osiris right around the corner. So stick around in this video for a review of the things that I think are coming to Rise of Kingdoms in 2023. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and in this video, we're going to do the following things. First of all, we're going to look at what happened in 2022. All of the changes, I actually wrote them down, including Spender's events. Then I'll give you my predictions for 2023. Then I'm going to talk about the things that, unfortunately, I think are going to stay the same, even though I would think all of us kind of wish that these things would change. So first and foremost, what did we get last year? Well, let me tell you, like it or not, we've got armaments, the state forum, formations, and inscriptions. We also got changes to the Lucerne scrolls and the pattern for rewards that appear there. We got the new Nile KVK format, which actually is really awesome, and I think that is a huge win. Great addition to the game. Does, I think, in my opinion, maybe benefit from a few changes, but overall really solid. We also got the Heroic Anthem power-up KVK format, which, I'm not playing it. I don't plan to play it. I don't know, maybe it's fun for smaller kingdoms. We got the Grand Prix Ark of Osiris event. We also got the Desert Tracks Camel Spenders event, which was a way to get a lot of sculptures if you were spending, and there was that weird thing you could buy your way into with the bird winning prizes. There also was a huge nerf to Barbarian Forts, which, obviously I would put this in the category of changes I really did not like. Massive nerf to Barbarian Forts, although I think the people who really hurt the most were the people that were truly abusing Barb Forts, possibly using bots and running them into alliances and just spamming through Barb Forts. In addition to Barb Forts getting nerfed, we actually also got sea battles, which I really hoped would be cooler than it was. It's sort of an interesting little mini game, but didn't bring much strategic depth to Rise of Kingdoms really at all. I was kind of hoping that it would be a lead-in to something that we'd see in KVKs, but honestly, it's like a side thing. The way that I think it's designed now, it should stay a side thing, but I sure would like if sea battles actually became a prominent thing in Rise of Kingdoms, a thing of importance, a thing that was strategic, a thing that was really fun in the same way that regular open field is fun. We got the new Egyptian civilization, which, by the way, I was in a commercial. Thank you, Rise of Kingdoms, for flying me out to California to film a commercial with the Pawn Stars, Rick and Corey. Yes, really, that commercial was amazing. Card will be up in the top. I'll remind you at the end of this video. You can go check that out. One change that I advocated for a long time and actually did happen, that was a great change to the game, is the removal of one-troop debuffs. For those of you that are new to the game, you don't know this, but you could actually attack a rally or a garrison with one single troop and apply full strength debuffs. So things like making the garrison take 30% more all damage, which is really dumb with a one troop. That used to be a thing. Now it is no longer a thing. Huzzah. They also added many commanders to the daily special offer, like a lot of commanders. And I think this pace is going to either stay the same or accelerate. I think they're going to want people to get the older commanders and have access to them. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. We got the iconic crystal system, which is nudging people in the direction of getting legendary equipment. For better or worse, you will ultimately want all legendary equipment now with iconics, because those iconics really add up in a very meaningful way. We also get the PC version of the game to a place that's really strong, to the point where I mostly play on PC now, which is a huge shift for me personally. We got the Cow Karak event in KVK, giving huge amounts of crystals, which is awesome. Unfortunately, they sort of reworked crystals in a way that was really favorable and then pulled it back a bunch. But we do have the Cow Karak event now here that gives those crystals. Also, we got Esmeralda's Prayer, Dalruk's Puzzle Box, and one other, actually a bunch of events. There was the Team Draw event, Heart's Desire. I feel like some of those events, by the way, were a huge miss. Like Dalruk's Puzzle Box feels like a kind of a huge miss to me. It's a Spender's event. It gives materials. I'm a spender. I want materials. I'm not doing that event. It's not particularly entertaining to stream, and it's not particularly rewarding as an event. Maybe I'm a little crazy for thinking that, but I don't know. Museum buffs were added to the game, by the way. Museum buffs were a huge win, but also museum buffs were the death of epic commanders. Many people don't realize that the addition of museum buffs where, look, like you get to KVK Season 4 and beyond, you have 20% health, 5% skill damage on Mehmet very easily. All of a sudden, all the epic commanders in Season of Conquest are dead on arrival, with the exception of maybe Joan, maybe Sun Tzu. They're pretty much all dead on arrival, which is kind of nuts. Also, one really good change. Many people won't even remember this happened. Do y'all remember, though, alliance-based KVKs was going to be a thing? Do you remember this? They were going to like hard shove the game in the direction of being super alliance-based instead of kingdom-based, which is, in my estimation, and I will not mince words here, an absolute effing disaster if they had done that, in my opinion. And it's very good that they moved away from alliance-based KVKs, because I think that that is, man, I don't know. That is, I think, a disaster. We've built huge communities around kingdoms, and slicing those communities in a really catastrophic way would have very negative consequences for the game. So thank goodness Bullet dodged. War of the Ruins. Unfortunately, Bullet not dodged. Man, they made a really awesome, like the idea of a battle royale for Rise of Kingdoms, I am 100% in. The execution of War of the Ruins, and I mean this in like the most constructive way possible, it like is actually physically painful how zoomed in the screen is when you play that game mode. And that's just the sort of start of my feedback there. So I think the possibilities for that game mode, even with just minor changes, would put it like leaps and bounds above where it is. I think, but War of the Ruins just feels kind of like this huge opportunity to have been this like ultra cool thing, and maybe it's not actually possible without just making like a whole new game entirely, but I thought there was something cool that could have happened there, and I'm glad now that it's a side event and not something that we actually need to do regularly. Last but not least, on the topic of things that we no longer do regularly, includes the Card King event, which mysteriously vanished and never returned. It still exists in really young kingdoms, KVK Seasons 1 through 3, even perhaps pre-KVK Season 1. The Card King is there, but in older kingdoms, it's gone now. And I think that's in part because, you know, you in Wheel of Fortune and Mightiest Governor, you can actually change around which commander you're getting. So with all of that context reviewed in 2022, what's happening in 2023? And unlike other times where I've made predictions, the developers actually made huge predictions themselves. And I guess predictions isn't the right word. They've made huge claims of what's coming to the game. So there's a lot that we actually already know, and I'm going to weave that in to my sort of predictions here. And the first is that I think we're going to get 2 KVK formats. One in the first half of the year, probably. One in the second half of the year. And they said that these KVK formats, at least one of them, is going to include skill assignment. Taking skills from one commander, kind of like you do in Heroic Anthem, and applying them to others. So I think skill assignment is going to potentially be a big part of a new KVK format coming probably in the first 6 months of this year. Just my guess. I also think in the first 6 months of this year, we're going to get a new civilization. And that new civilization is probably going to be cavalry or infantry. And my hope is honestly that we get a cavalry combat civilization, which I think we are very overdue for. The Germany civilization, not really a combat civilization, okay? Spain, not a combat civilization. Arabia, rallying, true, very good. But for fielding and garrison, doesn't do anything. And Byzantium, not really a combat civilization. I mean, they may count the hospital capacity here as combat, but I think this is a good civilization to switch to if your city's going to get rallied. That could be pretty solid, and you know for sure you're going to take deads. There's been a time in recent history where I probably should have switched to that, but otherwise, I would say we're kind of overdue for a solid cav civ here. The other civilization that we could get is an infantry civilization with training speed. We've got Britain, archers, training speed. We have Germany, cavalry, training speed. We are kind of overdue for infantry training speed. But enough about civilizations. Let's talk about Ark of Osiris. Now, the developers themselves have said they're looking at a number of things like fog, bosses, new objectives to capture instead of the Ark. So there's a number of changes that are coming to Ark of Osiris. I kind of predicted they would change the map, like they would add new maps potentially, but it sounds like they're probably just going to change the one map we already have instead of having multiple maps you could queue for. My prediction last year was that they would just do a new map, and a new map would add a lot of diversity. It sounds like they're going to change the existing map, though, which I think is an interesting choice. We're also going to get the Champions of Olympia game mode revamped. The developers have said they don't think it's really in its final form or where they want it to be, but I don't know when they're going to get to that. And I also don't think it's terribly important compared to other things that they've got. I mean, God, yeah, it'd be nice to have something in the off season that we could do that's really hype. And currently, I mean, it's not terribly hype. Like if I stream it, like not a lot of people are going to watch it. The stream slowly dies. So I don't know. It'd be cool to see that game mode get a lot more hype around it. It's not there yet. They also mentioned the possibility of adding world bosses, which is a weird one because we already sort of have something like that over here. And you may have forgotten about this. I have sort of forgotten about this because it's so inconsequential. The Barbarian Keeps are a system that just takes way too much grind for, I mean, I guess you could get some patterns, but like it's so much grind to get these patterns. And it's been a really long time. In fact, dude, I thought you used to be able to get a legendary pattern. Oh, maybe it's from Swindler Dalruk. Pendants of the Eternal Night. Like, oh my God, if I wanted to refine the one I have, it would just take such an eternity to go do. I don't know, man. So world bosses, like we're seeing in Call of Dragons, could be a thing that they do, and it could be kind of cool. I wonder why they would like blend so many elements from both games into each other. Like, I get that they probably can share code, but like Call of Dragons seems like the game where you have the world bosses and the ranged combat. And this seems like the game where you don't have ranged combat and you don't have world bosses, but yeah, I mean, they're adding in world bosses, they've said, and they have already added in the ranged combat. Now, while we're talking about ranged combat, they have said they're going to add ranged commanders and also pretty sure ranged equipment. So I don't know if siege units are going to get like really strong and all the siege equipment we've been getting will actually become super relevant. But potentially save your armaments that you get related to siege because they could at some point be super relevant again. And along those lines, let's talk about armaments for a moment. My hope is that they will change this system from being 100% chance-based to being more in the realm of chase-based. In other words, the ability to sort of incrementally improve your armaments. And I think they will make small changes. And I think these changes, this is my prediction, are going to be smaller than what players will want. But I think Plato Gaming really said it best when he said the problem with the system is it's all about chance and it really needs to be about chase, and that it's the only system in the game that is entirely about chance as opposed to chase. Commanders, you get sculptures, you chase over time. Equipment, you get materials, you chase patterns and completed patterns over time. Incremental progress. Absolutely no incremental progress on armaments whatsoever. The armament you get is either good or it's bad. You either junk it or you don't. And tragically, even if you are spending, there's not enough to buy in the recycle shop, which means like it just feels like every time I buy bundles, it's like, oh, well, you can recycle the armaments you get. Well, yeah, okay, but I'm going to have excess silver coins. And then you may be like, oh, well, you know, sucks to be a whale then, doesn't it, Chisgule? But like, what I'm trying to say is that the whole system, even if you're spending or free to play, should feel fun. And I think the developers will move it closer in that direction in 2023. That's where I'm really going with that, okay? I also think and hope we're going to get some sort of adjustment for fort stacking, okay? Today, you can put forts on top of each other in KVKs, and it makes it so that opposing kingdoms can gain literally only one tile of space per day. It is insane and very frustrating. The developers have said they're looking at it, but it's been a problem for a really long time. And it's the sort of thing that I kind of wish was getting fixed faster than it actually is. But the developers have said they are looking at it. And I think we will get some change in 2023 addressing the fort stacking insanity that, look, I don't have that much hair to pull out, but it's made me pull out a lot of my hair. All right. In addition to things that make me want to pull out my hair, targeting accuracy is something the developers have said that they're going to work on, which I love. Targeting precision. The number of times where I think I'm targeting an enemy and I target an ally instead, or a flag, or whatever, it's actually kind of surprising. And you honestly shouldn't be able. Like, there's literally zero reason in the game for an open field march to target another march, right? I shouldn't get the reticle for targeting my own march here. It only makes open field combat worse. So I'm hoping that they will make open field combat more smooth. And I honestly hope, but I am not holding out too much hope anyways, for the mobile experience to also get improvements like we have on PC. Because as it stands today, I mean, either you play on PC or you're going to get outskilled by someone who's playing on PC, in my opinion. I just don't think you can do on mobile a fraction of what you can do on a PC. It's just too clean, and it's very fun. PC version was a huge win for the game. Huge win. And one of the last predictions I've got for 2023 is that we're going to get more commanders in the museum. The developers have said as much, but my prediction is that it's going to be all the KVK Season 2 and 3 commanders, like Tamaris and Constantine and Alexander the Great, making their way into the museum, which I think is going to be really awesome. So really nice to see this change. Oh, and one other change, and this is really important for those of you planning your equipment. The developers have said that mixed troop garrisons are really not effective. They have recognized that the lack of mixed troop equipment is the reason that that's the case. And so expect mixed troop equipment, in my opinion, in 2023. This is a big deal. However, the developers have also kind of introduced the exact same problem. So even if they fix the equipment for mixed troops, they have not fixed the armaments for mixed troops. So you'll have the exact same problem all over again now with armaments. Sure, I mean, I suppose that this is a little bit addressed with like all troop health, for example, on an inscription and things that give you all troop stats on the inscriptions. But the armaments themselves really exacerbate this problem of mono troop type being really extremely dominant in a way that you cannot accomplish with mixed troops. And I think that problem is actually only worse now that the armament system is here. So it's going to be interesting to see if they overcompensate with the equipment to account for the sort of fact that the armaments introduce the exact same problem all over again. Now, here are the things that I think they're actually not going to change, and it's tragic. In 2023, one thing I've asked for that's I feel like a really clean, easy ask is to just lift the help cap ever so slightly. The problem is that if you fight all day long in KVK, you will hit the maximum number of helps that you can issue, which means that if you don't want to do that, you need to heal less frequently, which means you're more likely to have your hospital overflow, which just is a sucky experience. So rewarding players for actually clearing their hospital, it just makes sense to me. I think that I know they put the help cap in. I assume they don't want to get rid of it. Just increasing it slightly and saying that you've done it would be a huge victory. It's such an easy win. I feel like just claim the win. But I don't think that's going to happen in 2023. I also would really like to see KVK matchmaking get more competitive. And maybe I can show this on my restart, but I just don't think this is going to happen. So what do I mean by this? There are so many KVK formats now, and there are so many different times that kingdoms can actually queue for KVK that it's getting sort of harder and harder to get equally powerful kingdoms to all queue up at the same time. So in my estimation, I would love to see them make some changes that make it easier to get sort of more competitive matchmaking by sort of forcing more people to queue for the same things at the same time. I'm not saying don't have some choices. I'm just saying that the more formats they add, okay, and the fact that you can queue up every 2 weeks means that it's really hard to align potentially with an appropriately difficult or skilled kingdom or sized kingdom. And maybe this is just a problem that you have at the sort of extremes. If you're a really big kingdom or if you're a really small kingdom. But certainly as a really big kingdom, let me tell you, we have this problem in spades. But I don't think that's going to change in 2023. And I also, on the topic of big kingdoms, don't think that lag at pass openings is going to change dramatically. I would love for lag at pass openings and in big field fights to change, whether that's by designing KVKs that moves people into different parts of the map, removing people's ability to spectate so the people that are actually playing can have a super smooth experience. I don't think that that's going to change. I would love to see it change, but I don't think that it will. But with all that said, what are the things that you would like to see change in 2023? I'm eager for that down below in the comments, and I'll probably put together a video of like, hey, here's the top X things I want to change in Rise of Kingdoms. And I'll be looking for your comments to improve that list. I've got 2 crucial videos for you that you might want to watch after this one. The first is the one in which the developers revealed a ton of information about things they're making and that will be added into the game. That card will be in the end screen over here in just a second. Alternatively, if you want to see all of the things that took place in the previous calendar year and my predictions for 2022, so you can see for yourself how accurate or inaccurate they were, card is in the end screen for that as well.